and viewers online. If you are driving coming into Roseau, we welcome you to the city of Roseau. If you are listening at the comfort of your home or in your offices, if you're in your garden, you have your radio next to you, or whatever you're doing, we welcome you to this program this morning. We are in the midst of this Christmas season. We've seen many visitors, family members coming down to celebrate the season with loved ones. And of course, we have our wonderful and regular loyal customers of Jolly's Pharmacy doing their early shopping, their toys, and other gift items here at Jolly's Pharmacy. So this morning, we are in studio. I'm still awaiting our host, Trudy, and we have our online guest, which I will introduce later on. But this today's program is focused on end of year health stock taking. So you know how many business places from time to time, they are closed for stock taking, to just see what has to be ordered, what needs to be revamped, what other, rules and regulations need to be put in place. So same thing for us on Health Vibes, where we are at the end of the year, Christmas season, and we are focusing on end of year health stock taking. So I just want our listeners to know that if you shop online at Jollies.dm, we now have our toys available online. So if you don't have to come down in store to make a purchase, you can go online, Jollies.dm, where we have a wide variety of products and toys for the season. And an extra perk to buying your gifts online, you get them wrapped for free. Okay, so we do offer this service at Jolly's Pharmacy. And even if you do not purchase them online and you want to, then I'm sure we can facilitate you in some way or another. We had Mega Land at Fokole last Saturday and then the week before in Portsmouth, and they were a great success. The children had fun, the adults had fun. It was just a very vibrant and exciting atmosphere for everyone. So thank you for coming out, and I'm sure you will be looking forward to it for next year. But without further ado, my lovely Trudy is next to me. Good morning.
Good morning, Jacinta. How are you?
I'm doing good, thanks. How are you?
I'm good. Good morning to the listeners of Q95 FM Radio. Good morning to our Health Vibes crew. I do see our social media people are popping on. Good morning to you, those of you who always listen to the program and have stuck with us through the entire 2025 and are with us still at the end and always support the program. Good morning, good morning, good morning to you. Jacinta, it is a very busy morning in Roseau.
Yes.
Yes. And so traffic has kept me back a bit. But I'm here, and we are all set. I heard Jacinta already tease the topic that we have get up for you this morning. We have a guest who is online virtually. He will be joining us this morning, but I see he is already on. So we are all set to go. Julie, good morning to you. I see you have popped in, always with us on Health Vibe. So Jacinta, let's take a break. And then when we get back, we will introduce our guest who has been patiently waiting, and our listeners will get to know how are we taking stock of our health at the end of 2025. We'll be right back.
Jolly's Pharmacy is bringing vibes to health with Health Vibes. Health Vibes. Each and every Wednesday from 10 to 11:30 a.m. with your hosts, Trudy Kristen, and co-hosts, pharmacists Jacinta Fagan and Leona Jeremiah. Education, information, and a bit of humor. And not forgetting lots of vibes. Jolly's Pharmacy is bringing health and vibes together with Health Vibes. So be sure to tune in each and every Wednesday on Q95 from 10 to 11:30 a.m. Jolly's Pharmacy, leading the way in healthcare. Introducing Jolly's Pharmacy, brand new website. www.jollies.gm. Your time to jump the line. Shop now at jollies.gm and have your items delivered in the comfort of your office. No more standing in line. No need to use your lunch hour to shop. Hassle-free shopping, safe and secure. Jollies.gm features rush delivery, 1 hour. In-store pickup, regular delivery, 5 p.m. Cut-off time, 4 p.m. It's your time to jump the line. www.jollies.gm. Jollies Pharmacy, leading the way in healthcare.
Oh, and if they say convenience will make a big difference, then you can trust me. I know just where you should be. That is JP Mega. The one-stop shopping, Dominica, nigga. You could be shopping and having fun. If you're not happy with your social, get out to everyone. What a happy place. Oh, JP Mega. The one-stop shopping, Dominica, nigga. You could be shopping and having fun. Get out to everyone. What a happy place. Oh, what a happy place. Majestic some more any item and you automatically qualify for discounts. Check us out at the Mega Store in Fongole where there's lots of parking on Monday to Friday from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. On Saturdays from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. and on Sundays from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. JP Mega, the best family shopping experience.
And we are back with you. Of course, this is Health Vibes, and we promised we'll be taking stock this morning on Health Vibes of our health and what we have done towards maintaining good health throughout the year of 2025. Just in for at the end of the year, we often reflect on things like success. With what success have we made, or what successes have we gained in our professional lives, our personal lives as well. So sometimes we reflect on, how did we do in terms of relationships and so on? How did we do on the job? How did we do financially? We often reflect on that. Did we get poorer? Did we get, what did we make any financial gains?
Right.
Some of us reflect on things like our weight, for
True.
instance,
Fitness
did we,
goals, yes.
yes, fitness goals. But overall, there are so many things that you can take stock of
Yes.
as it relates to your personal health and well-being.
I agree.
Mhm.
Because at the beginning of every year, we encourage our listeners and our patients to make a new year goal or regimen. What would you like to see for yourself health wise? So all the other aspects of our lives are also important. But if we do not have optimal health, how are we supposed to achieve those goals, to the best of our abilities? So health wise, it's always important to reflect as to what would you like to do better? What did you do that was, wasn't one of the best choices last year? And then as we're approaching the end of this year, like you said, we go through our checklist. Okay, did I really stick to my diet? Did I reach my weight goal? Was I consistent in taking my multivitamins, my medication, my appointments, my follow-ups, and what can I do to change for 2026?
And we have the perfect person with us this morning to guide us through that stock taking. I know if you take inventory in your store, you maybe need an inventory clerk.
Yes.
You need somebody that is going to take your stock if you have merchandise that you are taking stock of. But if you're taking stock of your health, you need a doctor. And we have a doctor in the house, and I'd like to welcome him to Health Vibes. So the first time he's on with us on the program, and he's virtually present. So Dr. Burnett, good morning to you.
Good morning, Doc.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Loud and clear. Okay, good morning, Miss Christian, and good morning, Miss Fagan.
Good
I
morning
think
to you.
Miss Fagan and I have met on a number of occasions already.
Yes, we have. Yes.
But I've never met you, Miss Christian, but thank you for reaching out and allowing me to be on this wonderful program with you guys this morning. I'm not sure if I'm the perfect person, but maybe I'm the right person that can maybe give some guidelines or some steps, or as we can call it, checklists, to make sure that we actually did a proper stock check-in. Stock check-in, yeah, but we can also say health check-in, because without health, you have no wealth. So you cannot actually check anything to know that you have been productive, right? Also.
Right.
So this program this morning, I hope it's very educational, very interactive, very simple and to the point, so that all our listeners can take it, run with it, and know how to apply it to their daily lifestyle. Simple as that.
Yeah, that's definitely the aim. That's definitely the aim. Dr. Burnett, Kivian Burnett is the name. I want you to tell our listeners before we get started, before we go into the nitty gritty of our check-in, I want you to tell the listeners a little bit about who you are. As you did correctly say, we have never met in person, but I've heard about you, particularly during the COVID-19
Good thing,
pandemic.
right?
Yes. That's when I heard about you a lot. So just tell our listeners a bit about you and your medical your life as a medical practitioner.
Okay, no problem. Well, as you know, and as we have said, my name is Kivian Burnett. I'm originally from the town of Portsmouth, but if I want to be specific, Granville. Anytime you ask somebody if they're from Portsmouth, they have to tell you which part of Portsmouth. So I've been a medical doctor since 2016, when I finished medical school.
Okay.
My parents did not waste any time with me. It was like, hey, this is what you have to do. This is what is on the table. Make your choice. So I was like, okay, let's do this pre-med thing. So I did pre-med at All Saints University, proud alumni of All Saints, right there in Roseau. Started the pre-med. It was all right. So I told my mom, let's give it a try. Continued, was successful in everything else. Then went on to do some of my internship, which I did back home in Dominica. Went on to do my exams, so regional exams and US boards as well. Came back home to serve my people. I learned under some great doctors like Dr. Theodore Thomas, Dr. Kirsten George, and Dr. Adrian Deschochet, even Dr. Ferraro. So this can tell you that I've been trailblazing or working behind one of the greats that has done it in Dominica. And after that, I went into, can you hear me? Yeah, sorry. And after that, I went into the primary healthcare setting. So I worked in the district for quite some time. So I served in the Castle Bruce Health District, Roseau Health District, and my most favorite, I must say, was the St. Joseph Health District, because it was maybe like the third largest of all the 7 health districts in Dominica. So I met a lot of people. So the older folks may know me better than the younger folks today. So most persons, when they hear Dr. Burnett, some people used to think about Dr. Burnett, the pediatrician, but now it's a different story. People know Dr. Burnett, oh, the young guy. Yeah, so I also did the COVID-19 vaccination rollout program as the national coordinator, and that was a very good, challenging milestone for me. After all this was said and done, I decided, okay, let's do it to a new venture, because, I mean, we can stay in the same place all the time. You have to branch out, learn new things, develop new tactics, and come back and help your people. So right now I am doing my own thing, as well as sometimes I do emergency medicine for different companies. So I am now the medical director and, person in charge of KB Medics LLC, which is basically a healthcare system that is catered towards persons that are in need of it, wherever they are personally. So if you need healthcare at your home, your workplace, private events, whatever the case may be, we are well equipped and ready to take on that challenge to make sure that your environment is safe. And you can also have medical personnel there just in case something happens. But we like to raise awareness, for one, because prevention is always better than cure. And we like to make sure that we have a proper relationship with our clients in terms of confidentiality, as well as making you understand that your health is your wealth. So basically, that's it in a nutshell.
Okay. Nice. So yeah, so Dr. Burnett, the young doctor, the young one, because
Yes.
we've had Dr. Burnett, the pediatrician, on the show quite recently, in fact, during Diabetes Awareness Month in
Right.
November.
Yes.
So the guests may hear Dr. Burnett and say, "Hey, but this is not Dr. Burnett, the pediatrician. Dr. Burnett, the young one," he said.
So we're gonna keep that slogan from now. Huh? So that's a new trend. That's gonna be trending. I'm gonna make my marketing people have that on the
Right.
go for Dr. Bennett, the young one.
That's a good idea. But you mentioned about you said health is our wealth. You said prevention too is better than cure, and I really want to go in that line as we start the discussion. Dr. Burnett, my first take. I'm going to start from up and go down. Quite a lot of our listeners, or many of our listeners, fall in the category of elderly, I would say. So we're talking about people who are above the age of 65. People fall in that category. Quite a few of our listeners. I mean, we have a wide listenership, but I know quite a few of the elderly people listen to the program religiously. So I want to start with that group. It's the end of the year, and we're taking a look at what did we need to do to maintain, or what did we need to do to ensure the healthiest outcomes for ourselves for the year. So if we want to start with by age, and we want to start with people who are senior citizens, I would say. What type of thinking would I be having at the end of the year? What things should I have done in this calendar year?
Okay, well, funny that you mentioned it like that. I actually had 3 groups that we're going to look at. We're going to look at young adolescents, the adult, and the elderly.
Okay.
But since you want to start from 65 and above, we can.
Yeah, I want to start up and go down.
Okay, it's up to you. No problem. For this age group, what we have to look at, or we have to make sure that we checked out, is the functionality as well as the independent screening for those people. Because, so here's why. You have a 65-year-old grandfather or granny. These persons are already in retirement. They're home. They do their backyard gardening. They do everything like that. Now, if they are not functioning as they are normally, you know that there will be a decline. Now, at this age is when you have persons developing dementia. They are not as quick as they're supposed to be or used to be. So now that has you a bit worried. So you think about, okay, is my granny walking at the same pace that she's supposed to be walking? Is she slowed down? So you look at if the gait, that what we normally call like somebody can walk in a straight line, if that is still the same, because if not, there may be changes in her brain. So, stroke is a very, a very prominent thing in our society. Most persons get stroke and they don't know. Stroke can present as a TIA, which is something that happens and resolves in 24 hours. Or you can have a prolonged stroke, which is something more than 24 hours, where there's a bleed or it's a shortage of blood supply to part of the brain. So all these are different stuff that you have to check when I talk about functionality, right? Then you have to look at the daily activities, because the function determines whether this person will continue being productive as they are, or you will see a rapid decline. And now with the rapid decline, that's where things go downhill. So now she becomes a dependent. So that's why I was asking about independence versus that of dependence. So that is one you have to look at. So you look at the family structure, or you look at the individual structure, I should say. Are they still eating nourishly properly so that they can be nourished properly? Because Dominica has a lot of centenarians, or persons who live beyond the age of 70. Because, once you reach 70, you have what we call 7 tenths and score, or 7 scores and more, something like that. What's it saying?
Free scores and
free scores and 10. Right? So that is one thing that we look at, and things to prevent like dependency. So most persons go into retirement homes and they don't like that. So we have to make sure that, hey, are we able to care for our dependent? Are they doing what they're supposed to do? And this in itself prevents what we call long-term care facilities and so on and so forth. Also, you look for fall risk assessment. What do you check, and why do you have to check fall risk assessment? Because if the vision is obscured, granny will fall. So if granny falls and break her hip, now you have to look at something like a hip replacement. A hip replacement sometimes may cost arm and a leg, depend on the person's financial background. If they don't have insurance or their family is not able to pay for it, and then that in itself become a dependent. Granny might develop bed sores. The bed sores might lead to sepsis, which is infection in the blood, and from that they can deteriorate and die away. So we have to look at different things. So you look at the functionality of the 65-year-old. Are they able to carry out daily activities? Are they able to carry daily activities that they would do on a daily basis, or has it declined, and so on and so forth, right? Because one fall can change your life forever, right? So these are the different things. And then we talk about the cognitive health aspect of it. Cognitive health meaning, are they able to function in a setting where if I leave my grandmother 65 years home alone, would she remember to turn off the stove?
Okay.
Right? Would she remember where the keys are? Would she go wandering in the community and get lost? So all these are different things that you have to check. So you check for the cognitive function of your family member that is 65 years old. Is she able to remember? Hey, Granny, remember where you put the keys? Okay. What does that mean? Granny is losing some form of cognitive functioning. Granny, what is 10 plus 6? If she takes long to answer you, you know that, hey, she could be a little slow before she answer, but if the answer is just not there, you know, hey, we have to look into something where we may have to get a caretaker, because this may be detrimental for us if we go out to work, because everybody has to work. Everybody has to provide for the family. You can't be home 24/7. So the elderly that is at home, you have to look at ways that, hey, let's look at the steps and put everything in check so that we know moving forward what we're doing to protect those people and prevent the risk assessment that may comes with it. The other thing that I would like to also mention too is that we have to make sure we protect them in terms of vaccinations. Well, as you know, I did COVID-19 vaccination, so vaccination is a little up my stream. But the reason why I'm saying that is because it actually prevents a lot of permanent illnesses. So as you get older, your immune system weakens, right? So this leads you to prone to infections, things like meningitis or pneumonia. And pneumonia is one of the most common cause of death in the elderly, right? So this is one of the things that we have to look on the checklist. So you look at shingles, because persons who have had chickenpox back, yes. So you develop what we call herpes zoster virus, which is basically the shingles. And the shingles can cause post-neuralgic pain, so a lot of pain. And it may be in certain areas, normally around the navel area, and it can spread into the spinal cord, and these people will experience some serious pain. So that is one that you have to look at. So the shingles vaccine, even the pneumococcal vaccine, because again, as we said, meningitis and pneumonia is one of the most common cause of death in the elderly.
So Doc, you spoke about so many things that I can really relate with because my mom is of senior age. And so as you went down the list, I was like, okay, yes, this is very true, very relatable. What I will also add to what you spoke about is family members or whoever senior citizens have around them makes a great impact on their daily life and routine. So you spoke about dependency and independency, and that's something that I really take to heart. And what I can speak on is with my mom. We try to get her into a daily routine. Whether it's going to the washroom at a certain time, or walking certain distances, or trying to ask her certain questions. So from day to day, I mean, those certain things may change, but at least having her being accustomed with certain areas of the house or different conversations can help. What we also say in terms of muscle is if we don't use it, we lose it.
Yes.
So, right. So keeping them active as much as possible if they do not have any type of spine injury or leg injury that prevents them from being mobile, to the encouragement as well, because many of them may not feel to get out of bed. And I can again speak from experience. If my mom is very comfortable, she may not be very excited to
About moving.
about
Mhm.
Yeah.
moving. But we know the importance of physical activity and mobility and retaining your muscle strength and mass. And as you spoke about cognitive function, again, very relatable. As the days go by, the months and years go by, you realize that certain memory or events that would have taken place years ago, they may recall now, and then events that may
Short-term
short-term
memory
memory
is diminishing.
is diminishing. And
Mhm.
so proper nutrition is very, very important. So what they take in can impact or will impact on their overall health as well. And you know that senior citizens also get dehydrated more easily
Actually.
than us in our age group as well. They may not feel to eat as much. So that's where, certain vitamins and minerals would be, helping to fill the gap. A lot of fluids as well, and also looking to see any other physical change. So you look at physical change, cognitive function, their changing in eating patterns, and even their mood as well, would
Yeah, mood and
depend,
the mood, the
so
mood.
so as you spoke, Doc, you really had me going through my list,
Your own list.
with my mom.
So you
And
did your checklist right there.
I did my checklist. I did my checklist. But yes, there's a
Just
lot.
to add on what you said though, in terms of the vitamins and everything else, with cognitive function, vitamin B12 is very good too as well, because
Yes,
if
it
you have
is. I
deficiency in
have
vitamin
that for her.
B12, we have a decrease in the function in terms of cognitive function, and even like persons that have neuropathy pain or pain of the nerves
Right.
and so much.
Yes.
So vitamin B12 is very good too. So we should actually add that to our checklist for elderly to make sure, hey, as much as we might get them the pneumococcal vaccines and all this stuff, let's make sure that we have a nice dose of vitamin B12 that they can take every day to help at least with the cognitive functioning too as well.
Very
Mhm.
true. And
Mhm.
vitamin folic acid as well, and vitamin D along with other
Yeah. Well, I believe
immune.
a lot of people in the world is vitamin D deficient. We don't like the sun.
Mhm.
Surprisingly.
We like the AC. We like the indoors.
Exactly. That's why.
I don't blame them. I'm doing the same, but we need to do better.
Yes. Well, definitely not.
So we
Mhm.
need to do better.
But
So that was our checklist for the elderly. Do we
but we're
think that
not.
we covered everything, or we have more than?
I
Let's
have some.
keep it going.
I have some questions. So you went through a very detailed list. I really like it. Mentioning the cognitive indicators we need to look for. You also spoke about vision and vision testing. I want to ask you about that. What's best to check vision? Do you recommend that the person does an eye test with an ophthalmologist once a year? Was the frequency of which we should be checking vision at that age? And then I also want to ask about screening. Any particular screening methods or screening tests that people in that age group should be on the lookout to do, at least on a yearly basis, or multiple times a year? What type of screening methods should we be looking at?
Okay, so screening methods, we can look at it in a broad or even a narrow aspect. So let's look at the aspect if the person has a CNCD. So persons
Right.
with diabetes, you know that persons with diabetes would have eye problems that we call retinopathy, which is
Mhm.
the retina is going to be messed up. I can use that word, sorry.
Mhm.
Or there will be an injury because sometimes maybe bleeding of the vessels at the back of the eye and such of and such of. So persons who are above that age, you have to ask yourself, should they still be driving? Do they drive at night? Certain things like that. But again, it all depends on dependency, because my grandfather, well, may he rest in peace right now, at the age of 65, he wanted to drive his truck still, and nobody could tell him he cannot drive. Even if he wants to drive at nighttime, it's up to him. But you still have to make sure that, hey, I know you want to do this, but let's do a screening. So if you do initial screening and you notice, hey, that the vision is not 20/20, it's not 20/25 in either both left or right eye, you need to have at least eye glasses. So this is one that we will look at. So we'll be like, okay, so if you do that eye test every 3 months, every 6 months, or a yearly basis, it depends. So if somebody has what we call a progressive vision loss, then that would be a problematic thing. You would look for somebody who has a much more gradual than rather sudden onset.
Yes.
So once you know what basis you're looking at, that's when you know how often you
How
screen.
frequent? Okay.
Yeah, and yes, that's one. And if we're looking at other CNCDs, let's say persons, once you're, well, I have different categories, so I'm not going to jump from 65 and go to something else. So let's stick with the 65. Right? So once you leave certain CNCDs, communicable diseases such as well, not asthma. Well, yeah, asthma is one too, because you can develop COPD. But hypertension and diabetes, which is the main CNCDs that we face for all over the world, and different screenings for that. So I don't know if I lead too much towards the question that you asked, Ms. Christian, or you want me to expound something too much, because I know you mentioned about eye, so I don't know if anything
Yes,
else.
the vision screening, which you did answer, and other screening you mentioned, the CNCDs, and screening, I guess, for those. Any cancer screening important at that age?
Well, the cancer screening we will do before 65.
Before 65, okay.
Yeah, so that's why I said I don't want to jump into that.
Jump into the other age group.
yeah,
Okay, so I guess we can move.
Just one other area. What about kidney and liver function tests as well? Another blood routine test, so for cholesterol as well, and even for with the diabetes and hypertension, we have the HbA1c testing as well, and other blood groups. So with the general screening, that an elderly should have, just because they're of that age, and because they're on so many medications as well, their diet may not be the best. I still believe that a routine CBC count, complete blood count, where you see the iron levels, the cholesterol levels, the other the white blood cells and so forth, would be also important, and the liver and kidney function tests as well.
Okay, so let's expound on what you just said there. So let's look at the CBC, right? So CBC is a complete blood count, and the CBC we see red blood cells, white blood cells. We look at hemoglobin. Now, hemoglobin is the component that carries oxygen throughout the body. Now, when somebody tells you, "Hey, I'm always tired," you find that they look pale. You find they're not looking their normal self. We look at the hemoglobin. Now, hemoglobin has two aspects of it. You could either have microcytic anemia or macrocytic anemia, and I'm going to explain that for you. So you go to the doctor and he gives you a paper and he say, "Okay, this is your blood test." Okay, doc, what does the blood test say? Well, if you come to me, we'll sit down and we go through all the aspects of it. So what I'm looking at is, when I look at the hemoglobin, normal hemoglobin should be anything above 12 and above, right? If I see your hemoglobin is 10.8, especially if I'm looking at a female patient, first thing I ask you, do you have heavy periods? You say, yes, I have heavy periods. And I look at one of the precursors of the CBC, which we call the MCV, which is a mean corpuscular volume. So anytime you say MCV on your paper, you have to look whether if it's 80 or 100. Anything less than 80 is where we come to the microcytic anemia. Micro meaning small. So that's where the red blood cell, the iron, is deficient. Right? Now, causes of iron deficiency ranges from that of uterine fibrosis for female, and also for males or anybody else, we look at something as colorectal cancer. Right? So that is one of the areas that we look at to make sure we do any screening for that, of what is the cause of your anemia. So women with multiple fibroids would have heavy bleeding during the periods, and they will say, okay, well, I can say, okay, your bleeding causes you to have microcytic anemia, hence the reason why your hemoglobin may be low. But if you say, no, doc, I don't have heavy periods, then I'll ask you, okay, do you notice that your stool is very dark? Do you take iron tablets, or if you take Xarelto and those things? So you have what we could call either upper or lower GI bleed. Now, this complicates everything, but we're going to make it as simple as possible. Because anytime there's a bleed, we need to know what's the source of the bleed and actually stop it from bleeding, because the bleeding will cause you to actually to die, sorry to say. So these are different aspects of different screenings that we take. So if you do a CBC, notice that the hemoglobin is low. We have to know why the hemoglobin is low. So we spoke about the microcytic. Let's speak about the macrocytic now. So anything more than 100, because we said the level is between 80 to 100. Anything more than 100 is what we call the macrocytic. Now, the macrocytic has to deal with folate deficiency. So there's some stuff in your stomach that we call the intrinsic factor. And if it's not absorbing it properly, then you develop the macrocytic anemia. But these are for people who don't really eat meat and persons who don't have a high protein diet. So a lot of the Rastafarians and so on would have a high MCV, but it doesn't mean that anything is bad, but just means that they don't have enough vitamin B uptake, right? So that's why we give them supplements of vitamin B and make sure that they are rather up to speed. Then you look at the persons with the kidney functioning. Now, kidney functioning can tell me two things. We have what we call BUN and creatinine. The BUN is a BUN, or we call it urea nitrogen, sorry. For elderly, most of them would have a high BUN because they don't drink enough water. Also, too, your skin and integrity and everything is less because we have what we call sensible and insensible losses. The insensible losses are things we cannot see. So they're in a hot room, they will sweat, right? Or if you're in a cold environment, you'll pee more than if you're in a hot environment. So these are different things that we don't see. Or if you're vomiting or you're just not taking in fluid at all, they would have a high increase in the BUN. So if I see something like that, I can say, hey, Granny, you're not drinking enough water. Yes, we doc, my mouth doesn't have taste, you know. Yeah, so we understand, right? So these are different precursors that we look at. Now, if there is a high ratio between the BUN and the creatinine, I can say then there's some acute kidney injury happening there. Now, with that being said, what we do, we try to hydrate as much as possible, but not at a maximum level because, again, my metabolic rate at my young age, I wouldn't say, compared to somebody who is over 65 is not the same. So I might get up and go and pee more often than them, and they might not. So you don't want to overload them with fluid. And if they have any chronic illnesses that can lead to maybe heart failure and so on and so forth, you make them a little much more prone to getting much more sick than normal. So what we do, we make sure that, is that an acute setting that we can reverse or it's a chronic setting? If it's chronic, we know that, hey, we still can't give Granny too much fluids, but yet still we give her something supplemental just to make her optimal, right? Because some persons, things are irreversible, but some are reversible. So if the chronic injury is like, let's say you have a BUN and it's 23 because the level is between 7 to 20. If you have 23 and the kidney function is about, and the creatinine is about 0.5 to about 1.2, thereabout. So if you notice Granny is at 23 and she's 1.4, you can say, okay, that looks acute. Let's give her about 500 normal saline or Ringer's lactate, and let's repeat the labs in about 6 to 24 hours. If we see a change, then we say, okay, well, you know what, Granny just dehydrated. Let's just make sure we hydrate her properly. Now, if you see it's just out of range and you say, hey, that's leading to kidney function problems and that's going to lead us into dialysis and everything else. So there's so much we can go into, and I love to explain, and I like to bring down to the cellular level because it makes no sense you come to a doctor and you're like, what is he saying? You understand? So you can apply it to everyday life. And so we looked at the CBCs and we looked at the kidney functioning. So Miss Fagan, I hope I didn't lose you as well as Christy.
I love that you broke it down, and I really appreciate the fact that you take time to explain to your patients, because many patients come in and then they ask us questions that would have been more appropriate to their doctor, their physician. And some of them will say, oh, my doctor doesn't have any patients, or they feel rushed, so keep that up, because patients really appreciate the time taken to explain their results, especially their results and their medication regimen. So.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you say that we don't rush, because I'll just say this, but it's not really something that is a problem. We recently had a wellness clinic done at Petro Caribe weeks or months ago. I can't remember, but we released the content recently, and that's when everything started trending. Persons who first come are like, why everybody's staying so long inside them, and what happening? Everybody's sick and whatnot. So everybody had that notion that, hey, when I go inside, they're going to come out, man. But when they actually understood what was going on, because it's not just you coming to the doctor, hey, what's your pressure? Yeah, that's it. And no, it's not like that. Like, hey, your pressure is this. What do you do on a normal basis? You know your pressure is like, let's say you have the top and you have the below. One is a systolic, one is a diastolic. The diastolic is when your heart is resting. So your heart has to take its own oxygen because your heart has its own arteries. And without it, it will die. So if your heart is resting at a high pressure, there's no chance for your heart to actually get the proper nutrients. But if it's resting at a lower pressure, it takes time for it to get all the nutrients and everything. And it's like, doc, no doctor never explained that to us before. I'm like, yeah, I mean, different people have their different styles of going about it, but I want you to go out and be well, because I don't want sick patients. To be honest with you, I never like sick patients. I like patients who come to me and they say, oh, this is the problem, that's the problem. We treat the problem, we send you back out in society so you can provide for yourself and your family. And then you can also refer people back to us. Because if you're always sick and you come into us, they'll say, boy, that young man, Burnett, I don't know what you're doing, man. You know, local terms. You understand? But the main fact that you can be well and you have a proper understanding of everything, you can go and relate to your wife at home or your kids at home or anybody and tell them, hey, the doctor explained this to me. And the best thing you can do is explain somebody at their level. Because if you use all the different terminologies and you play like you go to Harvard, at the end of the day, any medical school you go, they cannot tell you the heart has more than 4 chambers. So when people tell me, oh, where you studied? And I say, Austin's. Oh, I'm like, okay, cool. But what do you learn on what islands too different? The heart only has 4 chambers, not so? There's only 26 letters of the alphabet, not so? You understand? So it's not a matter about where you study or whatever the case may be. It's how you apply the knowledge that you have learned to impact everybody's on a daily basis. So that's it. We explain and we like to make sure that persons understand.
Doc, and I appreciate that as well. I just want to caution, because I know you explained certain things. For instance, reading your kidney function test and the Bantu creatinine ratio and what you're looking for, your CBC and what you're looking for in terms of hemoglobin. We just want to advise the doctor when doc says that, we will then do this or we will then do that. He's saying that is what the doctor will advise. So it's not for you to take the results and try to interpret on your own, because you've gotten this wonderful explanation here on Health Vibes, and then go to ChatGPT and ask it, what is the treatment for this or what is the diagnosis for this. No, we still want to make sure that you seek professional medical advice. Yes. So I love the explanation, but we must also, as we say colloquially these days, do the right thing and seek that medical professional advice. And I really like that the doctor is giving us some insight into that process, what the medical practitioner is thinking through when they're interpreting for you. So we have gotten a lot of good information for our senior citizens. I would say I want us to our move to our next category that we wanted to go into, our adults. I know, Doc, you said you had maybe broken it down a bit differently than I did.
Yeah, it's okay.
But our adults who are not in the senior citizen category, not young or not adolescents, so our adults from 20 something, 30 upwards, what are some of the things that we should be looking at on our checklist?
Well, I had adults as 18 to 64.
Okay, 18. All right. Let's take 18 to 64. Good.
Because at 18 or 16, you can become what we call an emancipated minor or even an adult. So 18 is the age. So I had it at 18. So, and we're going to strike a nerve. A lot of persons may be able to relate to that. But the main and number one thing that I had as checklist number 1 is blood pressure and heart disease prevention.
Okay.
So as we speak, do you guys know your baseline blood pressure?
Yes, I do.
I do.
You don't have to disclose it on air. All right, you don't have to disclose
But
it on
yes.
air. But at least blood pressure checks has to be something that we do on, if not a daily basis, at least a bi-weekly or even a
Mhm.
weekly basis. Reason why I said this is that persons sometimes have what we call a white coat syndrome, right? So you come to the doctor and you take your pressure, but because you're going to the doctor, your pressure gonna be high. And before persons come to you in your office, well, come to me as a medical provider, Miss Christian and Miss Fagan, they already go to Google, do all the
Yeah,
research,
and
and come down and
ChatGPT.
Chat.
sit down and say, Doc, I have white coat syndrome. How you know you have white coat syndrome? Oh, because I know coming by you, so my pressure just high. I say, okay, cool. You have white coat syndrome. So here's what we're gonna do. You're gonna invest, get a proper blood pressure apparatus, not the one that goes on the wrist. You're gonna
Mhm.
get the one that goes on the arm. So we
Mhm.
check the brachial artery right here, and you give me a reading at least a 2 week period, and then I can know whether you're lying to me or you are actually hypertensive.
Right.
Right
Right. Doc,
now,
Doc,
sorry.
let me just pause you for 1 second. We've been getting quite a few calls. I do want to open up the lines because
Oh,
we
we
did
have
want this.
lines. Oh
Yes,
my,
Yes.
because
oh
we
my,
did
oh
want this
my,
to
oh
be
my.
interactive, and I see that people have been trying very eagerly to get through on the program. So let me just, at this point, open up the line. So as we discuss, we can also take calls. Of course, 449-3095, 449-3096, 449-3097, 616-4257. That's if you're local. If you're calling from overseas, 305-432-9624. And Dr. Burnett was just guiding us through what adults, so 18, we said to 64 is the
Yes,
correct age range, what adults should be looking for their health checklist, as we reflect on our health throughout the year. So, Doc, back to you.
okay. So nobody's on the line. You can continue.
No.
Okay, because my line was ringing. I don't know why, but I guess people are like, "Hey, Bernard, let's go, let's go." Okay, no problem.
We've missed a few
So,
calls, but we'll get them
We'll get
back.
them
So
back.
yeah.
I'll let you know when they're back.
We
Okay,
And
have
and
so
one.
someone is on the line, Doc. So let's take a
let's
call.
take a, let's just take a
Yes.
call.
Caller,
Hello,
good
morning, Judy
morning.
Jacinta and Dr. Burney.
Good morning. Good morning.
A question I want to ask. Doctor said about vaccine for, I'm a senior citizen, eh?
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Burnett spoke about vaccine for shingles. What I want to ask, do you just go at any time? When I say any time, 65 down and say you want a vaccine for shingles?
Okay.
I
Well,
mean, go to a health center or wherever and just have like a vaccine for shingles. Would the vaccine be available there right away?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, caller. So,
good call.
question on the shingles vaccine.
Okay, so I don't think it's something that is widely available, maybe in our formulary. When I say that in terms of like maybe the health center, if I'm wrong, anybody can correct me. But I know at some pharmacies, especially Jollies, you could ask for it, and your health provider could administer it for you without any problem. So yeah, so anybody 65
Okay.
and older, and you have been exposed to chickenpox already, and you know that you do get shingles, especially when you have very stressful times. That's when the shingles will come up on you. So later on, when your immune system is a little much more susceptible for diseases, that's when you should have it. So yeah, you can maybe just go speak to your healthcare provider. They could write you a prescription, send you to the pharmacy, you get it, nice cold storage, and return and have it inoculated.
Okay. I believe we have someone else on the line. Caller, good morning. Okay, we lost that call. You can try again. But yes, so good information there on the shingles vaccine, Jacinta.
All right. So we do have a wide range of vaccines at Jolly's Pharmacy.
Mhm.
However, it's wise to check in on the availability,
Okay.
the various vaccines. And if we do not have them in stock, then we can source them and bring them in. What I would also like to advise our patients very quickly before the call comes in is when you're collecting vaccines, make sure that you have your cooler with ice and they are able to be covered properly to maintain the proper temperature.
Okay. All right. Let's take a call. Caller, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Hi, good morning.
I would just like to ask the doctor a question. What would cause your body to be itching you?
itching. And any other anything else, symptoms, anything else for like a context for the doctor?
No, that's the only question I would like to ask. I know with the thyroid issue, one of the symptoms it can be itching.
Okay, no problem. Itching could be something, let's base it on two aspects. It could be an allergic reaction. So we sometimes have what we call delayed allergic reactions. So persons may be able to use the same soap for about 5 years, and after a while, maybe they change one ingredient in the soap that you don't know of, and you develop that itching and say, but I've been using Dove soap for all my life. But hey, things change. They might try new different brands, well, not brands, but different ingredients to maybe have stretched the product or whatever the case may be. That could be one. And also persons who may be developing diabetes. Diabetes can cause you to have what we call pruritus. So it causes a lot of itching at times. So if you're not checking your sugar levels on a daily basis or just a proper HbA1c, which we will get into in a little while, then that could also be one of the causes of the itching. Thyroid and other hormone imbalances, that too can also do that, but we can expound on that in terms of endocrinology aspect where we talk about hormones. Yes.
Okay. Thank you
So
for
checking
that.
the sugar and also check to see if any environmental cause. So if it's a soap or any type of clothing that you're using or detergent, could be the cause of that itching.
All right. What I'll also say on that question is that based on what we see in the pharmacy, people come in and say, I have developed a certain type of itch. And as doctor just went through, we would have to ask necessary questions because a general itch or an itch in a particular area of the body would also determine if it's an allergic reaction to perfume, if it's around the neck area, if the person's suffering from diabetes, another medical condition, or is it because of a medication or supplement, that was taken and they're allergic to it, or if an insect bit them, something passed on their skin, so it can be various reasons. So based on the cause of the itching, then we'll be able to tailor the treatment regimen.
Yes, doc. So we were in line with discussing taking your blood pressure readings, providing that to the doctor if you have a home monitor, blood pressure monitor, and being able to manage that and give the doctor some insights when you come in as to what is your normal blood pressure readings. That is where we were when we started to take some calls. So I want to just follow through, bring you back to where you were, and let's continue with what the adults should be looking for.
So number one, again, let's reiterate on that. It's blood pressure and heart disease prevention. What to check? You check your blood pressure if it's weekly or 2 weekly. Now, I'm not one who diagnoses persons with high blood pressure on the first encounter. Again, we talk about white coat syndrome. We can also talk about different stressors. So if you're stressed and you come to me, because some persons have emotional stress that they come to a doctor and you're like, you know what, doc, I just need a week off. I need to rest, I need to relate and everything else. Fine, no problem. But also to that alarming blood pressure, because normal blood pressure in certain guidelines will tell you anything about 120 over 80 is reassuring. But some now guidelines will tell you 120 over 80, depends on your age, it's alarming, right? So if I'm getting a blood pressure of 110 over 70, that's good. But if you're getting a blood pressure of 125 over 95, I'm like, okay, the diastolic is a bit high, so that could just be a one-off. Let me send you home, go home, check it out. Come back and see me in 2 weeks, and everything I'm seeing is 140 over 98, 150 over 101, 160 over 96. Nobody. Something's going on. We need to take in front. Because one thing about high blood pressure is what we call the silent killer. And most times you can feel pretty fine because people function very well at some high blood pressure readings, but it's one reading away from a stroke.
Exactly.
We can relate to that, right? So, and this is also something that we have to understand because high blood pressure leads to kidney injury, it leads to stroke, and it still leads to heart attack. So we have to at least take in front of that. So high blood pressure is one of the things that we must take into consideration, or a very high priority on your checklist I stopped taking this year. Was your blood pressure good?
Mhm.
Was your blood pressure satisfactory? It's something that you can work on. Now, as I said, we don't just start on medication one time. We have to have the trends. And if the trends are something that is problematic, I will tell you, okay, let's look at some forms of reducing your blood pressure. And what I notice now of the young generation, everybody don't like medication. And I can understand why. Reason being, back in the day, a doctor would put you on 3-4 medications to manage your blood pressure. And compliance is one thing, right? Why should I take 3 and 4 medication just to deal with something? Doctor, I'm gonna die, man. Better die in peace. Right? That's what some of them think. But there are new developing medications that you can use that can only do like 1 a day and helps with that because of a longer half-life. So I
Right.
tend to look into those type of medications. And also too, for the men don't like to take any medication that would cause any form of erectile dysfunction. And I'm being honest, right? So first thing they'll say, doc, that's going to prevent me from doing my stuff.
Yeah, it's true.
And I have
We
to be
need all
like,
the time.
and I'm like, okay, let's outweigh the pros and the cons. If it prevents you from doing your stuff, you would rather be not alive to take care of your kids. And by the time you're 6 feet under, somebody's already holding on to your significant other. How do you feel about that? But you take your blood pressure, you exercise, you diet, and you take the medication. I mean, medication doesn't have to be a chronic thing. You take the medication if you know you can balance it after a while with proper diet and exercise, you can wean off the medication. But
So-
again, the knowledge of that is not really passed on. So everybody just think you're going to take that for a long time, right? So that's one thing that we have to make sure that we establish, because persons only adhere to medication, especially if the compliance is better. So if you can take 1 pill a day compared to taking 3 and 4, I would take the 1. Because when I take it in the morning and I go to work, I don't have to worry about taking 1 at 12. And also to confidentiality is another different thing, completely different thing. If somebody notices you taking pills, they be like, boy, Mr. Sick, man, you know, and people don't like people in their business. That is one, right?
Right.
So that is one way we have to look at it, but we have to find the best way of trying to get it in so that we can continue the compliance and make sure at least we prevent a father from getting a stroke or getting a heart attack. And I'll give one analogy before we get into it. Let's say you have a nuclear family of mother, father, 2 children, 3 children. Family, good trajectory, it's going up well. Daughters is 15, son is 17, going on 18. So you live in the high school phase, going to the college phase right now, right? Father is a hardworking guy. He's maybe a construction worker. The mother works at maybe a restaurant or a bank or something. Father doesn't check his blood pressure or doesn't check his blood sugar at all. Now, with blood sugar, you have what we call neuropathy, where persons develop lack of feeling in the end vessels. So numbness to the feet and the toes and everything else. So construction worker, nail goes on his foot, in the shoes, he doesn't notice that. He doesn't have time to take care of himself and check his foot. He develops an infection. The infection goes to the bone, and we have to cut out some of the toes. Now, he's the breadwinner, right, of the family, doing everything to bring in the money. Right now, he cannot work. So what happens? The wife has to take out the mantle herself. She now maybe develops high blood pressure, right? With that being said. So the kids that are accustomed of going to school with $20 for snack right now have to go with $10, right? Mommy is actually working overtime, so she has no time to check the kids. Daddy might be in depression because he lost his leg. He cannot do what he has to do before. So a family trajectory like this, where kids could have maybe gone to study, become lawyers and doctors, now have to go down because the kids now have to take on the mantle to provide for the home, bills have to pay. So now you have that diversity where you have a family that was promising now having to revert to something else. So that's what now leads to the gang violence. The boys will lead to, let's say, let's go to hustle to make some money because daddy can't give you. Then the girls have to develop to go to early relationships that are unwanted because they need to provide for themselves. So look at how a CNCD can just change the family dynamic from great to just borderline one time.
Doc, I will want to stress a little on the types of medications that we have to increase compliance. just briefly before we head on to our other category. The good news is many medications right now combine more than one type of medication in one tablet. And
True.
so you are able to increase, compliance, as you rightfully said, with less tablets needed to take on a daily basis. So for blood pressure, many of the patients should be on lisinopril ATTZ. So it's two different types of medications in one. Those suffering from diabetes would have metformin and the sitagliptin or vitagliptin in combination, and the list goes on. So right now, as many other medications come on the market, manufacturers are, using their heads more and more, combining based on the different demands of different types of medications. So it is something I mean to look forward to, and many of our doctors make use of those type of combos, just because patients may require more than one and see it as very ideal for a customer to stick to their regimen.
And to improve compliance
Yes.
and adherence.
Yeah.
Doc, you and I just want to, your the picture that you painted was very vivid
Very.
as it relates to
Very.
how, not taking care of just this one aspect of health. We're talking blood pressure management here, how, it can affect the whole family, your whole generation of potential success. It can just diminish that very instantly. So I like the vivid nature of the picture. I want to just echo the importance of what you are saying, and for our listeners to take note, we're talking adults. The doctor has given us the range of 18 to 64. What that means is that if you're 20 years old or 22 years old or 27 years old and you're listening to this, it's for you.
Yeah.
So the blood pressure monitoring doesn't, it's for people of that age. I find a lot of people figure, boy, I don't need to check my blood pressure. Like, that's an old people thing, you know what I mean? But more and more we're seeing that is absolutely not true, and that people need to be checking their those basic things regularly.
Of course, really, because again, we can relate, Doc, and myself, and those in the medical field. Many young people, it's not a thing of the past where it was only the elderly or the senior citizens coming with high blood pressure and blood sugar readings. And when we consult them, about their lifestyle regimen, they may look at, but why are you telling me about this? I'm only this age, and us in the pharmacy departments, I always tell my colleagues, you see how much people spend on medications and supplements and doctors visits, so this should be an indication that it's not just for senior citizens, it's for people of our age range. So if we start to look at our routines, our daily lifestyle regimens, what we eat, what we do, then we can say, okay, in order for us to save ourselves from all those medical complications, frequent doctor visits or surgeries, then we have to act now. So if you see an elevation in your blood pressure, blood sugar, it's not just something to say, oh, it's just for one day, it's just for because I'm a little stressed. What is going on, or what are you doing at this stage that may increase your risk for other health issues in the future, and then reevaluate. The new year's coming up, so a perfect time, to start through your daily routine.
Definitely.
I agree. And most people don't understand, though, that blood pressure is basically, we have primary and we have secondary. Primary, we as medical physicians or some scholars like to play smart, so we say it's idiopathic, meaning that we don't know what it is, but we just say idiopathic. We don't know what the cause is, but we will relate it to lifestyle as well as maybe family history. And then secondary, it speaks for itself, secondary to a cause. So it's secondary to maybe kidney problems, maybe somebody who has what we call renal artery stenosis, where the arteries in the kidneys are very small. And when something is very small, it takes a lot of blood to give the input and output. Or if somebody has thyroid conditions or whatever the case may be. So knowing what your cause of your high blood pressure is also very important. So you make sure that you don't have any end organ damages too as well. And as I like to tell people, look at it in layman terms, pressure, what does pressure do? Pressure bursts pipes. So
Mm-hmm.
as long as your pressure is high, it can burst a vessel in your brain and you get a hemorrhagic stroke, where a person become in a comatose or vegetative state. So that's very important. So
Mm-hmm.
the blood pressure is one. So we
Mm-hmm.
looked at blood pressure and heart disease prevention.
Right.
Number two is diabetes and metabolic health. Now
Mhm.
that's a very touchy subject. Now, diabetes doesn't only come from sugar cravings. Okay, let's get that out of the way. Our body releases something that we call cortisol. Cortisol is also a stress hormone, right? So, cortisol can also make your blood sugar very high. And cortisol is also released in the early morning. So, a person sometimes when they check the sugar is saying, but I don't eat last time, but yet still my sugar is high. So, cortisol is another thing that we have to look at. So, sometimes if somebody doesn't have a sugar craving or doesn't eat unhealthy and I still know that their sugar is high, I send them to do cortisol levels, right? Because you have to understand what is really going on. But the main basis that we do for metabolic and for sugar levels is the fasting glucose. Anything that the normal range between fasting glucose is 65 to 110. Some literatures will tell you 60 to 100, but 65 to 110 is favorable. And if you haven't had anything to eat from midnight and your sugar, when you come to the office or you go to the lab and do it and it's 140, then that raises some red flags for me. But the most important one that I like to make sure that I catch my patients on is the HbA1c.
Right.
HbA1c tells me how your sugar has been for a period of 3 months in your system. Now, you can lie to me and tell me you drink water for the past 2 days, so before you come and see me, your fasting is relatively good. But by the time I pull out the A1C and I see it's more than 14, I know that's a problem.
Right.
You
Big
understand?
problem.
Yes.
Yeah, so we have the pre-diabetic phase to which anything is above, let's say 5.7. Some literature will tell you 5.7. But the most common one is anything above 6.5, and that is the percentage. So that is one that we look at. And type 2 diabetes, it is the one that is increased the most, and it affects persons even below the age of 40 and above, right? And early prevention or early detection prevents blindness, it prevents neuropathy, and also prevents kidney failure and amputations. I have seen persons with some high blood sugar readings, and young people too. You have to amputate their feet, you have to amputate a toe, you have to amputate some appendage. And these things are in itself, I mean, living in a third world country, it's kind of difficult because you getting a prosthetic leg might be a little difficult unless you have to go to a foreign country and they have to get it fitted and placed back in, and you can function on a normal basis. But if you live in a third world country where we don't have these amenities available to us, you have persons that would lead to early depression too as well. You understand? So there's so much really we can do to prevent and make sure that we stay on the right path. But it really has to do with lifestyle changes and actually knowing, hey, what does one complication lead to a next? So that's basically for me. And sugar doesn't believe it, as I said, it doesn't have to be with only sweet cravings, but we have to also do hormonal checks too as well. Also, lipid profile is a very important one on the metabolic aspect of it. The lipids would be with that of cholesterol. Now, we like fast food, and that's my problem too as well. Well, not me personally, because I don't really believe in fast food so much. I would eat a fries here and there. Somebody who knows me very well might say, Dr. Manning like fries, but on a very minute occasion. But in the more developing worlds, you notice persons tend to go for the fast food rather than actually cooking a proper meal at home, right? And I believe the only time persons cook a proper meal at home is on a Sunday when everybody's at home. We pay for houses, mortgages, and everything else, and you're never at your home. You're always on the go, right? So on the go, you just get what you normally eat at a restaurant, and who knows what they put in it. Sometimes they might put a high fructose syrup in it, or they might use certain oils that are not, conducive to the human body, right? So all these are different problems. So once your cholesterol now becomes high, you have plaque buildup in your arteries. Once the plaque builds up in the arteries, that means the blood now has to push at a greater level to get the blood to the other part of the body. So that in itself becomes a problem. So cholesterol and sugar too is another problem, as well as a high blood pressure. So you see the three factors that we have so far. and how we have to do those checklists to make sure, hey, is my cholesterol good? Is my blood pressure good? Is my sugar good?
Mhm. And these three things I want to just advocate for people to take control of their health, and if you need to do self-test, so the information can then lead you to if you need a medical intervention for some of these things. A lot of people say, because I do lipid profiles and I do HbA1cs, I just go into the lab and I ask to do it to
Right, you can.
monitor, and people say, hey, you doing that? Yes, you can.
You
So you can just go
yeah.
into a lab and get your HbA1c done. You can go and ask for a lipid profile, so that I just want to let our listeners know, because I'm still surprised that people are surprised that you can self-test for some of these, markers that we are discussing here. Yeah, so I just want to advocate for that.
I love this point that you made, because many people come in again. I always make a reference to what we see at the pharmacy, so you would hear me speak like that very frequently. But yeah, so many people come in, and when we mention the availability of tests or the different institutions or facilities that are available for testing, and they say, but don't I need to go to a doctor for this referral? And no, I mean, when you go to the different facilities, they will indicate what tests need a doctor's referral and what you can get on your own. But on a year-to-year basis, and that can vary from male and men and women, as to the type of test that you should do when you reach a certain age. And for women, please do not forget your pap smears and your mammograms after you've reached a certain age. But of course, doing your routine tests, and many of us have insurance, so make use of it as well. So doing your routine screening, whether it is for blood tests, urine tests, organ function tests, and your pap smears for men, your prostate examinations, so just from year to year, whether it's dental, we didn't speak about dental, but dental checks, your vision, your mental health is also very important. So if you know you're going through a very trying period, then and you need some consultation, some professional assistance, then have this checked out as well. Do not neglect your mental health. So all in all, we're speaking about your routine screening, your annual checks, your regular checks. So doctor mentioned about how frequently you need to do your blood pressure reading checks and your blood glucose readings as well.
Jacinta, I see. Well, you kind of ran through some of the other things maybe Doc was going to speak about, and the show, unfortunately, we like towards the end of the time. But Doc, I will allow you, because Jacinta started to speak to some cancer screening methods as well, and I think that's particular to this age group. She spoke of pap smears and so on. So Doc, I'll just give you some time to wrap up, because as always, time flies when you're on Health Vibes.
Yes.
I think time flies when you're having fun.
Yes, that too.
I was just gonna say, if personally think we rehearse this, because it's relatively impromptu, but I was actually leading towards number 3 in terms of pap smears at the age of 21, right? We say 21, but once you become sexually active, you should have a pap smear done, because what we tend to see right now is the human papillomavirus, which is one of the causes of cervical cancers. And also, two persons may not know, but also HPV can cause throat cancer. Persons who engage in a lot of oral sex, sometimes the virus can be, dominant, or be sleeping, as we would say, in the oral pharyngeal cavity, and then manifest itself. And then you wonder, like, hey, I've never smoked before, but how do I have throat cancer? But that's because of the HPV and everything else for that. And then breast cancer too, you always have your screening and mammograms. Once you're at the age of 40, you do your mammograms. Persons younger than 40, and if you suspect there's a lump, we do an ultrasound. So we can do ultrasound guided needle wire to see where it is exactly, and then we just pull it out and send it for testing. And if it does come back where persons have cancer of the breast, we'll have to maybe do a radical mastectomy, where you take out the breast and also adjacent lymph nodes. And I'm thinking on there being maybe a plastic surgeon so we can do silicone implants in Dominica one day. So persons don't have to live with that scarring or feeling less of a woman because you have one breast. Also looking at colorectal cancer, we screen from age 45.
Right.
But if you do have a family history of it, you go 10 years before. So if you know, like let's say, for example, a family member had colorectal cancer, you don't screen at 45, you screen at 35 because you want to take in front. So your chances of family history sometimes increase because, again, it might be something genetic, right? So a lot of other different things, prostate. So now we're not leading too much on the finger aspect because everybody becomes very uncomfortable with a finger. So what we do the PSA. The PSA is a prosthetic specific antigen, it's a blood test. It's between the range of 0 to 4. Anything more than 4, we will monitor if we think it's something where it's also problematic, where you have urinary symptoms, where you have midstream urine or you're not peeing forcefully or whatever the case may be. We do a prostatic ultrasound to make sure there's no nodules or whatever the case may be. And if we notice anything, we take a biopsy of it and we look to see if there's any changes in the cells that would tell us it's cancerous. I see that we are above our time. I think that means we'll have to do another segment.
Yes, I feel so too.
Yeah, I think so. And I think more people want to maybe call in, but we've been having so much of an interaction. Persons maybe didn't have the chance to get online.
So maybe Dr. Burnett, I mean, the idea could be, so we're doing this at the end of the year. What should you have done? What do you need to be looking out for? We maybe need to kick off 2026 with what am I going to do
What should I do?
to ensure that I maximize my health outcomes for the year 2026. So we'll be inviting you again because we have a lot left to discuss.
And we didn't even touch on the young adolescents, and you look for
And
different
children
things.
and babies.
Bullying in the school and make sure their mental health is fine and all the different things that we could have talked about. But again, it's good to get the information out there, giving back to the community and making persons be aware of, hey, there are still medical providers that listen and want to provide information.
Yes. Amen to
and, give it in the right way, evidence-based medicine, and see how we can get to be a better and healthier nation by extension.
Dr. Burnett, I want to thank you so much for joining us on the program. And as I said, we will extend an invitation in the future. I see now the phones are going again.
You don't want to take one or two at least?
Let's take one. Let's beg Q95 for a little extra time. Let's take one. Caller, good morning.
Yeah, good morning. Good morning to you, Jude, and the others, and the doctor. Good morning. Great program.
Thanks.
Good morning. Thank you.
I just wanted to touch a little bit that we've had a history of long living people, globally as Dominicans. And I think we should acknowledge in those why we've had a history of long life, of long living, And it's back to nutrition and our foods and our things. So while we talk about the medical aspect of the whole thing or whatever, but we used to have people living with good cognitive issues, less of those problems that we now have. So I think we need to reinforce that also in this program, that we have what it takes locally to keep our people living long, healthy. And the reasons why we have any issues because of imported food, and wrongful nutrition. So it's not like we don't have the solution in Dominica. We have the solution. So I just wanted us to be aware of that it's not something that needs necessarily external and a whole lot of other medical things. We have what it takes to live long and healthy right there in Dominica.
Thank you.
It was a great program, and I really enjoyed it.
Thank you. And that's what too. Dominica could be a very holistic country in terms of everything from the food that we grow, no NGOs or no fertilizer, everything from the grassroots level. And I mean, we have centenarians to show that. And I did mention that at first. So if we really have to go and get into the proper nutrition from the school level to everything else, maybe we can eradicate some of the CNCDs, hands down.
Right.
But it takes a collective effort, not just individual. It's a collective stride.
Yeah, and everybody's singing the same tune. Doc, thank you. I said again, I want to just allow you to share your contact information. If people want to know, where do they reach Dr. Burnett? If they want to, if they want to see you, if they want to make an appointment, if they want to access KB Medical Services, what is the contact that they should utilize?
Okay, so contact is 767-295-5813. We are in the process of actually having a staple location. We are decentralizing, not in Roseau, but in Portsmouth. So you can take a nice scenic drive to the north of the island and come and, sit down at KB Medics LLC and experience healthcare. That's what we will call it. But for now, everything is a bit mobile. So that's what we do. And if needs be, the office location that I have had for a while now, it's downstairs of Big Edge by Dr. George. It's Palmaris Health Inc. So we do clinics there at times. But in terms of contact, it's KB Medics LLC at gmail.com too as well. And on Instagram, you can follow us at KB Medics. So we post every day some content as well as different WhatsApp channels. So we give information. So the WhatsApp channel is very good. So once you join on 295-5813, we can share with you our channel. And from there, you see everything given on a daily basis about your health. We talk about cortisol levels. We speak about even different things as just like what your stool color is supposed to be, because some persons maybe when you pass stool, you see it looks gray, you wonder why. So every odd stuff that can happen in medicine, we tend to just shed information on that. So at least we keep our listeners engaged. So let me repeat again, 767-295-5813.
Correct. And the email address,
kbmedicsllc@gmail.com.
at gmail.com. All right. So that's it. If you want to contact Dr. Burnett, you have all the info. Jacinfa signing out from another episode here of Health Vibes. Thank you to our listeners who tuned in. To those who didn't get to catch us on the phone, I know the phones are still going. We hope that you can engage with us. Next week, we'll be on as well. And it will be Christmas Eve, God willing, and we'll be here on Health Vibes.
So I'll not be here next week. So Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to everybody listening.
In advance, right? All right.
Sorry. Can I just give my regards before we go? Yeah. Okay. So Merry Christmas to everybody listening, my clients and those who will be potential clients as well. Dominica by extension, the region, and the rest of the international world. I also wish you guys a very prosperous 2026 and hope that we all go into the new year in proper health and lead into proper wealth as well. Thank you very much for having me, guys. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. So until next time, do have a good week and we will see you soon. Goodbye.
George Pharmacy is bringing vibes to health with Health Vibes. Health Vibes. Each and every Wednesday from 10